In my previous videos, I introduced some of the key concepts of realism in international relations. According to realism, states almost always seek to maximize their national interest. Their primary focus is on ensuring survival, followed by pursuing prosperity and autonomy. In this pursuit, states inevitably engage in power struggles with one another. Realist theories are largely grounded in history and historical events, while other schools of thought such as liberalism and constructivism offer alternative or complementary explanations. Realism tends to provide the most comprehensive understanding of state behavior in international relations. As a result, most geopolitical analysts rely on realist theories as the foundation for their analysis. Unlike scholars who often align with the specific schools of thought, analysts need to remain practical without a fixed preference for realism, liberalism, or constructivism. It is notable that many geopolitical analysts consistently lean on realist theories due to their broad explanatory power. Therefore, the idea of realism can be seen as the gravitational force in international relations, inescapable and influential. This gravitational pull cannot be ignored. Yet, many great thinkers have challenged realism's central premise that states are in an eternal struggle for power. Should humanity simply accept the realist portrayal of this power struggle as its destiny? Perhaps the most effective solution to the survival of the fittest nature of international politics, as proposed by realism, is the concept of the balance of power. In this framework, many great powers aim to maintain a balance where each state's power is countered by another, creating a delicate system of checks and balances. This equilibrium discourages any one state from dominating the region. Depending on one's perspectives, even regional hegemony, where one state holds dominant control, can be seen as a form of a stable power balance, provided it prevents broader conflicts. In the absence of a balance of power, however, it is likely that conflicts between competing states will persist. The so-called reality presented by realist thought is so bleak that most people would instinctively reject it. Is this truly the best we can aspire to? After all, humans are social beings. If we have managed to create societies, establishing the state and replacing the law of the jungle with the rule of law within our borders, why can't we achieve a similar transformation on the international stage? Even if the principle of realism exerts a certain gravitational force, gravity can be overcome. If that is the case, then it must also be possible to transcend the anarchic nature of the international system. If overcoming gravity is possible in international relations, what are the secrets to achieving it? This is where the ideas of liberalism come into play. The foundation for addressing this question was laid by the great German philosopher Immanuel Kant. In his 1795 essay, Toward Perpetual Peace, Kant begins by recalling a signboard he saw at a Dutch inn that read Perpetual Peace, accompanied by an image of a cemetery. It seems the innkeeper believed perpetual peace could only be achieved in death. Kant, however, disagreed, as reflected in the title of his essay, which pointed toward a peace achievable in life. I will return to Kant's masterpiece in future videos, but for now, it is enough to note that his theories still serve as the foundation for many relevant ideas today. Liberalism, the school of thought that stands as a major rival to realism in international relations, can be seen as a more developed and articulated version of Kant's ideas introduced in the 18th century. At this point, I believe there are 3 or 4 key elements that can be used to challenge the gravitational force emphasized by realist thought. The first of these elements is legitimacy. Legitimacy is a natural force in all human politics, underpinning every form of political relationship. In any society, political dynamics can often be distilled down to one simple goal: gaining the support of a larger number of people. To do this, you need resources to offer your supporters, but just as crucially, your cause must be seen as legitimate. Even from a realist perspective, legitimacy is a central element in maintaining hegemony. It not only helps you to gain power, but also enables you to sustain it. Without legitimacy, gaining power becomes a daunting struggle, and even if power is achieved, maintaining it becomes significantly harder. The longevity and stability of power are largely dependent on the perception of legitimacy. Since ancient times, when absolute monarchies ruled states, leaders have made great efforts to find at least one legitimate region to launch military campaigns. In the East, reasons such as loyalty or filial piety often justified such actions. Accusing an enemy ruler of violating these duties was an attack on their legitimacy. In the West, at least since the Roman Empire, the concept of a just war has guided rulers in their quest for legitimacy. It is important to note that what constitutes legitimacy has evolved throughout history, reflecting the progress of human civilization. While legitimacy is a natural force in politics, what is considered a legitimate action is often shaped by culture and ideology. In recent decades, liberalism has been particularly successful in expanding the definition of legitimacy, especially in the realm of human rights. Yet, the question of what is legitimate remains a contentious issue in the international community, largely due to the cultural and ideological differences between states. Thus, legitimacy is a force that plays a key role in both the realism and liberalism. In fact, the question of legitimacy represents one of the central battlegrounds between nationalism and liberalism, with culture and ideology at the heart of the debate. The second key element is interdependence. The idea that increasing economic interdependence between states can reduce the likelihood of armed conflict is perhaps the most important philosophical contribution of liberalism. Supported by the economic theories of absolute and comparative advantage, interdependence has been a dominant principle in international economics for the past several decades. As economic interdependence deepens, the benefits that states derive from mutual cooperation become more substantial. In such a system, the costs of conflict would be too high, discouraging states from yielding to their realist instincts. Many believed that globalization over the past 3 decades had brought the world close to this ideal level of interdependence until Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 shattered that illusion. Even from a realist perspective, interdependence advances the national interests of the states involved. For realists, if the benefits of peaceful cooperation exceeds the gains of war, states are less likely to engage in conflict. For realists, however, economic interdependence is subject to a cost-benefit analysis. If a state believes that it has more to gain by disrupting this interdependence than by maintaining it, then the entire premise of interdependence and peace is called into question. Thus, the peace promoted by economic interdependence is nothing more than a conditional peace. The third key element is multilateralism. What is multilateralism? While there are various definitions, the United Nations offers a particularly relevant one. According to the UN, multilateralism involves adherence to common political project based on respect for a shared system of norms and values, in particular on the basis of fundamental principles such as consultation, inclusiveness, and solidarity. Its functioning is governed by rules jointly developed to ensure sustainable and effective cooperation. These rules guarantee the same rights and obligations to all actors through their continuous application. So, conceptually, multilateralism can be likened to federation or democracy. In many ways, it represents the closest the international community has come to establishing a form of liberal democracy at the global level. States interact based on mutual respect and sovereignty, cooperating to pursue common universal goals that benefit not only individual nations, but humanity as a whole. From a systematic perspective, multilateralism creates a parliament-like political arena where all nations engage with each other. They voice their opinions, participate in discussions, and help shape rules that a substantial number of states agree to follow. This process promotes transparency, reducing the risks of miscommunication, while fostering a culture of cooperation and constructive negotiation that counters the old rule of the jungle. Within a multilateral framework, power dynamics become more complex, allowing for the creation of a balance of power that is harder to achieve in regions dominated by only a few powerful states. Moreover, Multilateralism can institutionalize economic interdependence among states and foster a common understanding of what is legitimate. Multilateralism is often institutionalized through international organizations such as the United Nations or the World Trade Organization, which serve as platforms for multilateral cooperation. International organizations provide structure and continuity to multilateral efforts. The fourth key element is the spread of liberal democracy. In his essay Toward Perpetual Peace, Immanuel Kant argued that states with a republican political system are less likely to go to war with one another. While republics have historically gone to war, many liberalists believe that Kant was referring not just to the form, but to the essence of republics. In other words, republics where the will of the people is genuinely reflected in political decisions and where there is an effective system of checks and balances among government branches would be less inclined to engage in conflict. In modern terms, many followers of Kant assert that major wars between liberal democracies are highly unlikely. There are many reasons for this, but here are a few. First, leaders in democracies face electoral consequences for going to war. Second, liberal democracies often share common norms and principles. Third, liberal democracies tend to have strong economic ties. Fourth, democratic institutions can slow or prevent a rush to war. While liberal democracies have only existed for a relatively short period, we can already see that wars between them are statistically much rarer than conflicts involving other political systems. This suggests that Kant's premise holds merit, though time will ultimately test this theory. Here comes today's conclusion. While no single factor can guarantee lasting peace, the combination of legitimacy, interdependence, multilateralism, and the spread of liberal democracy offers a compelling framework for reducing the likelihood of conflict. Realism may remind us of the gravitational pull and enduring relevance of power politics, but these liberal elements provide ways to push against that force, creating opportunities for cooperation, stability, and mutual prosperity. As we look to the future, the question remains, can humanity continue to build systems that prioritize peace over conflict? While the path forward is uncertain, the pursuit of a more peaceful and cooperative international order is worth every effort. By strengthening these key elements, we may be able to create a world where peace, though fragile, is no longer a fleeting dream, but a sustainable reality. But an uncomfortable question still lingers. Are these truly enough, especially in today's era of hegemonic transition? As global power shifts and uncertainties grow, this question becomes even more pressing. It deserves not only greater attention, but also noble efforts to seek deeper answers. Okay, that's it for today. If you found this video valuable, please support it by clicking like and subscribe. Thanks, and see you next time.